How do I know if nothing's popped up?
Down the bottom of OBS, it should have a deal that tells you like dropped frames and.
Yeah, but where do I see chat and all that?
Okay, so on the top, if that's not showing up on the top where you can hit like a drop down, it should have docs.
Under
Should
what?
say,
Oh, docs. Okay, yeah.
and then one should say like chat.
Is there a way to
else?
get? I guess I can move it over here.
What
I just don't understand why our webcam images have to be repeated over top of any pop out.
Yeah, I don't know either. I haven't figured that out yet. All I know is I'm looking at the stream and it looks fine, so. Ew. My mic is hella loud.
I can turn it down some. All right.
It only took us an hour, but we got it working. Now everybody's in bed.
Yeah. How do I even see what?
If people start chatting, it'll pop up in the deal. I mean, it doesn't tell you need to like log in or anything, does it?
No. It just says welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy.
On my screen, it says there's 4 watching. Well, shoot. Now that took us an hour to get set up.
Time to get off.
Uh-oh. Oh,
what's up?
Okay. You changed your screen.
Oh, yeah. I was
scared me for a minute.
Pulling it over.
Everybody can hear and everything? Hopefully. Don't mind my messy room. I just moved, so.
Okay. All right, cool.
Oh, all right, man.
Good to hear it.
Well, what do you want to talk about? Because I'm going to save my story of what happened to me today for later. I got a lump on my head. You can't really see it.
Yeah, I just got to find out where Docs went because that thing ran away from me.
I've got chat pulled up. Leardy58. How's it going? Did you find the doc, Tony? Just pull up your. Can you pull up YouTube on a different screen?
That's what I was gonna do, but I don't know if I can watch my own live stream.
It'll be behind.
I'm logged in.
Oh, you should be able to. But the doc should. Did you minimize OBS or?
No, should I?
No, because it'll minimize that chat window if you do.
Oh yeah.
It should be right over the OBS window.
Yeah. It's just like a pop out. It's just, I wish I could just not have these because it literally sits over right where you like
everything,
enter
every
a
window.
message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's every window.
So it's just lame because I don't know how many people are in here. I don't see anything.
I can see you moving it.
See me moving what?
Like I'm watching the stream on YouTube and I can see random windows move on the left-hand side of my screen.
Yeah, I was trying to get it laid out. Now I'm not going to remember how to go back to make Amazon videos and shit because everything's changed. Doesn't help that my microphone just for some reason doesn't want to work.
Yeah, we'll get it figured out.
How many do we got in here?
8 right now.
Okay. This is just a nightmare over here. I'm not used to having this much stuff open.
We'll get it figured out. It's the first stream. It's gonna have some hiccups.
Oh yeah. So we were gonna discuss my Camaro fuel issues.
Is that what it was? Was a fuel issue?
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
kind of.
was it?
Well,
Oh,
yeah. That's why I was gonna call you as soon as it happened. I was like, because we had just got done talking about how we're gonna discuss the fuel issues that I've had in the past. And then
yeah.
I'm just driving and it just shuts down on me, just driving 30 down this road. And I'm like, it's only like 5 miles away from my house, not even, but it's
Right.
like 20 stoplights. So I'm like, as soon as I get this thing going, like, I'm just like, I caught every single red light. I'm just like, this thing's going to die again. I was like, but I'm going to start from the beginning and we'll get to what happened today. So I got the car in like 2014, but I just drove it with the V6 in it for, I don't know, like a year and a half until I started college. And that's when I started to do the rebuild. Well, right before I decided to start doing the rebuild on the car, it was 2016 because we had just moved into our house in El Paso. And the sending unit had went bad. Nothing wrong with the fuel pump, anything like that. It still drove. It's just the gauge was always maxed out.
Mm.
So when I decided to start the rebuild, I was like, well, I might as well just drop the rear end and do that now since I'm tearing everything else apart. So that's when I put a new sending unit in. And when I was doing that, I was like, well, I'm going to do the engine swap and all of these other things. I might as well do another or a new fuel pump to handle whatever I'm going to do to it in the future. And so that's when I installed a new sending unit and a new fuel pump, the Automotive 340. And then it basically just sat in the tank because my project went from, well, it was supposed to be like a year project and then have the car up and going, and it turned into a almost 10 years. And so in 2017 or 2016, 2017, yeah, your camera's doing that again.
I know.
So 2016, 2017 is when I did the new fuel pump and sending unit. And then in 2022, 2023 is when we were going to fire it up for the first time. So what's that? 6-7 years. This sending unit and fuel pump just sat in the tank. And when we were going to fire it up, it wouldn't fire. And after doing a bunch of diagnosis, me and my dad found out that we ended up uh, trying to pump fuel out up at the Phytech. We tried to pump it out at the fuel filter. We tried pumping it anywhere along those lines because we heard the fuel pump turn on, but nothing was coming out. So I was like, well, I can hear the fuel pump running, so I don't know what's going on there. So we ended up ripping everything out that I just installed
Mm.
because I didn't want to cut the trap door at the time because I just didn't want to. I was like, I'm putting all new in there. There's no point in it. It's going to be good.
Right.
And then all this new stuff in the tank, I drop it, get it out, and the 2-inch little rubber hose that connects the fuel pump to the sending unit hardline had just eaten a hole in it. So then it was just picking up fuel and basically dumping it out of the top of the fuel pump instead of going up through the hard lines. And so I replaced that 2-inch rubber hose. We put it all back. Well, first we flowed it to make sure that it was working before we put everything back together. It worked, put it all back in. And I mean, that thing literally fired up right away, instantaneous. And then 3 months later, when my uncle was visiting, go to give him a ride. We get back home, park it in the driveway, and my wife tells me we're going to go downtown. So I'm like, okay, let me park the car in the garage, and it won't start out in my driveway. And so I'm about to light this car on fire because I'm over it at this point. And after doing a bunch of testing, at this time, the new pump, which was 6-7 years old, but it probably had a total of 4 hours on it, had just taken a dump. The whole pump just went bad. So then that was 2022, 2023 timeframe. 2024, I pulled it all back out, and I was contemplating putting a trap door in now because I was like, this is irritating. But At this point, I'm like, I'm replacing everything. I did new fuel straps, new fuel tank, new sending unit, new fuel pump. And I was like, okay, it's got to be good after this. Put it all back in. And I ended up going with Holley stuff this time because Aeromotive, they're really well known and they
Right.
make great stuff. But after that, I was pretty salty.
Understand.
So I switched everything to Holley. Not, it's probably not Holley stuff. It's Holley just sells it from somebody else, most likely. But I did the Holley pump, the Holley sending unit, tank, straps, all of that good stuff. And then at the start of this year, when I finally, it was nice enough to start driving, it started, I drove it, I don't know, probably for about an hour and a half, and I started hearing something. I'm like, what is that? I thought it was my stereo, like backfeeding, like wires or something, but my stereo was off. And I was like, well, hopefully it's my battery. It's going to blow up in my trunk. Because I mean, at least with the battery, I can just unbolt it and put a new one in.
Right.
But I was like, I knew in the back of my head, I was like, that's the fuel pump. But I refused. I was like, please be literally anything else. And no, I drove it for about 2 hours, and now like it's a straight pipe exhaust basically, and it's underneath my seat, so like it's loud, and all I hear is as I'm driving. I'm like, I should not hear that. And so I get out, I pop my hatch, and I put my ear. You can hear it clear as day underneath the car, and when you put you don't even got to put your ear up against it, but I knew it was coming from the fuel tank. So at that point, that is when I started doing more research because like there's no reason that this should keep happening, or what I'm trying to figure out what's causing this, not to just keep replacing everything, which I'm going to end up doing anyways, but I want to find the cause of it. And
Right.
after looking at it, I noticed the feed line is 3/8, return is 5/16. And I start thinking, I'm like, I'm going to do all new fuel line because I have the stock fuel line from the back of the car just up to the engine. And then I have AN lines that actually go to the Phytech. And I noticed that the hard lines are about an inch away from my driver's side header. And that's both the feed and return. And a couple times when I had started it after I heard the fuel pump whining, I could kind of hear it gurgling. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's getting really hot. And so I had ordered a bunch of stuff, and I wrapped all my fuel line for about 18 inches next to my header. And then I went ahead and wrapped all of the AN line that sits above the header just because the radiant heat coming up. So I'm like, it's getting heated as it passes the header coming to the engine and then over the header. And then whatever's not being used is being sent back and then also passed by the header again. So it's all being heated right there.
Right.
And then dumping it back in my fuel tank. And I think the whole tank itself was just getting really hot. And then after doing a lot more research, I found out that GM, basically all manufacturers, they skimped on the wiring and they would install smaller gauge wiring than what's necessary. And they still do that today because it's weight savings, it's cost savings. Like they run the bare minimum to run these vehicles, basically. And so anytime you put something bigger in it or something with a higher amperage draw, like it's just not meant to handle that. So then I found out about Racetronics, and they have something called a hot wire kit. And this is basically just a very basic wiring harness. It's a power cable that runs from your alternator to a relay. And then from the relay, you have a ground and then basically a pigtail that will then plug into your sending unit and the bulkhead or the rear firewall. So it basically just goes in line with your factory wiring for the fuel pump. But your factory wiring is now only used to send a signal to your fuel gauge. And then this new wiring harness that you just run underneath the car, you can run it inside the car, but that's just not happening in my situation because I'm not ripping everything out of my car to do that. But I
Right.
run all of this, and I think they used 16 gauge factory wiring. And so I got this because they replace it with a 10 gauge so it can actually handle it. And it goes directly to the alternator. So instead of just seeing battery voltage, because they did testing on these cars, and at wide open throttle, that you could see a 25% voltage drop at the fuel pump. So if you're
Wow.
losing 25% of your voltage at the fuel, like it's gonna destroy your fuel pump.
Right.
And so this being connected to the alternator is constantly seeing the highest voltage possible. Even when you go full throttle, that's obviously spinning your alternator faster,
Hmm.
keeping the voltage up. And so it's constantly supplying your pump with the voltage it needs. And so I install this and I get to the back and I go to plug it in and realize that they had a different connector on it than what my sending unit required. I'm like,
How's it
well, it's
going,
still
Mark?
still a 3-pin. How's it going, Mark? Glad you made it. Sorry, we're on a little bit later than normal because my microphone was all messed up. We don't know what's going on with that, and it was
Yeah, it was a
irritating.
debacle.
Yeah, it really was. So we're a little
Whole
bit
day's been a
later.
debacle.
Yeah. Um. So then I had called Racetronics and looking up forums and all these things about Racetronics. They have horrible customer service, and like everybody states that like they spoke to the owner or possibly the owner's son, and like they always make people feel stupid. Like it's not our product. Like this is your fault. You figure it out. Like they don't have like there. It's very few cases that I read where the customer actually got help from them. Like most of the time, they're all like, "Well, you need to buy more stuff," and that's basically what they told me. They're all like, "Well, we changed the wiring harness without telling anybody," and so before this hot wire kit, you could just purchase it, plug it in, you're good to go. Well, I don't even know when they switched, but now they changed from weather pack connectors to something called a MetroPack connector, which is it just handles more amperage.
Hmm.
And they're like, well, in order to make that work properly, you gotta buy this wiring harness that replaces the wiring from the top of your sending unit down to the bulkhead connect or the rear firewall connector. And then you got to replace the connector on your sending unit, and then you got to replace the wiring harness inside your tank that runs from the sending unit down to the pump. I was like, the whole point of this hot wire kit was so I don't have to replace all of this junk. I was like, I wouldn't have done this, or I would have saved this for when I do the next rebuild on this thing, and I just
Right.
tear it all apart. But that's not happening. It's like, well, we do sell the converter. It'll convert the MetroPack back to the weather pack. I was like, okay, I've been talking to this guy on the phone for like 20 minutes and I asked him about it. And he was like, no, no. And then at the end he said this. I was like, okay, thanks for the information. I was
He's trying
like,
to
give
sell
me
you
the
the other
run. Yeah,
pieces, dude.
he's trying to sell me $400 worth of wiring harness that I'm not asking
Right.
for.
Yep.
And all I needed was this $15 converter or pigtail connector that converts it back. Now, granted, the MetroPack can handle like 30 or 40 amps, and the Weather Pack can handle 20. But when you're really going to need that MetroPack connector is when you're running dual fuel pumps, and you're definitely going to see over 20 amps. Well, I buy that. It comes in like 2 days later. Plug it in, fires right up. I immediately see more fuel pressure at my gauge up here on the Phytech. I think I was hitting like 57 or 58, which is what the Phytech requires.
Hmm.
And now it was like sitting at 61, 62. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I got all the heat sleeve installed, the hot wire kit in, and I took it out a couple times for probably about an hour, hour and a half each time. And while if I climbed underneath the car, I could hear the fuel pump, but it was very quiet. I could just hear a slight whine. I'm like, okay, I think that's roughly normal. It's not like it was screaming at me like it was before. And so that comes to today. I bought a bunch of other heat shields that'll go underneath the Phytech and the intake manifold. It'll go between them. It's made for old carburetors to prevent boiling fuel in the bowls, but I'm going to
Right.
use it in order to protect the ECU that Phytech had originally when they designed these. They put the ECU inside the actual unit. Now I
Mm.
believe the newer ones they've removed it and it's kind of like a standalone, like you can mount it on the firewall or inside the car. But with these, it was a common thing for the ECUs to go bad because they're just soaking all the heat in the engine. So I bought an old carb shield and it's basically an aluminum plate that sits underneath the unit and will just dissipate heat before the actual Vitec soaking it in. I
Gotcha.
just haven't installed that, but comes to today, I take the car out, and keep in mind I drove this for at least a couple hours like last week and
I
stuff
remember you
after
went
I
for a
had done
couple
all this.
drives for it and everything. It was good.
Yeah. And I mean, I was pretty hard on it. I did probably 10 burnouts and 5 or 6 launches. And I mean, it was holding up like a champ. I mean, except for my front main seal just leaking everywhere, but that's another problem. But I get out, I go to the gas station, pick up a couple drinks, and then I just like to do that because it's like a 5-minute drive from my home. It kind of gets warm. I shut it off, go inside, come back out. It's absorbed some heat, fire it back up. At least in that case, if there is an issue, I'm just right down the street from my house. But fires right back up. And so I decided to go across town over near where my son's school is. Old Holly carbs were prone to have problems with. Yeah, they were. That's I think a lot of I can't remember what years, but I know GM had actually used those heat shield dissipation plates factory in some vehicles. I'm not sure what that means. But I'm headed towards my son's school, and it's only like probably 2 or 3 miles, and it's a straight line. Uh, and I make this left, and because I'm going to go over by my buddy Colin's house because he hasn't got to see the car yet, and I get probably a mile from his house, and I'm probably only going 30, and it's up this hill. I'm going, and then just silent. I'm just like, well, that's weird. Like normally, my ears are just while I'm driving the car, and it was just weird because the car was still rolling and making no noise. And I was like, well, this is a situation, and I'm on a very narrow 2-lane road, and there's no shoulder. So I just pulled into this person's driveway, and luckily it's like a 8-mile long driveway, but it's like really steep, and I'm like pulling in this thing at like maybe 7 miles an hour. I'm like, come on, get up the hill. I like get 3/4 the way up it, and I just like slam on the brakes, put it in park. And I was like, well, hopefully they don't come out, but I am blocking their whole driveway. But I immediately knew what the issue was because all my power was still on, and the car just died. And so I just shut it off. I got out, popped the hood, and I go back to the car because I look at my fuel pressure gauge. I'm like, well, that's down to 20. I'm like, cool. Go and cycle the key. I hear nothing except for my relays clicking. I was like, oh, cool. So I go back up. I see my fuel pressure just completely dropped to 0. I was like, all right, well, fuel pump. I was like, awesome. And so I'm like sitting there for about a whole 12 seconds debating on who I should call, John Boy or my other buddy that lives over by one of my dealerships I service for a trailer ride. Because I don't trust tow trucks to just not mess up my car.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. I get that big time.
And I was like, I just installed that hot wire kit, and I was like, I feel like I've been hearing like my alternator. I feel like I could hear it like
dragging.
Yeah, like louder. Like
I'm working harder.
Yeah, and so I climb underneath the back end, and the nice thing about this hot wire kit is it just runs in line. It doesn't require you to rip out any of your factory wiring. So I just disconnected the hot wire kit at the rear firewall, disconnected it, the sending unit from the wiring harness, and then I just plugged my sending unit back into the factory connector on the rear firewall. And I was like, please, Lord, just work. And I turned the key and the fuel pump turned back on, fired right up. I was like, okay, now I'm just going to go straight back home. I was like, and like there are 6 stoplights from this place to my house. And I hit every damn one of them. I was like, this shit's going to die right here. Like, it wasn't like before where I died going 30 miles an hour and I was able to pull off in a driveway. I'm going to be sitting at a stoplight. I'm going to be that jackass that's pushing his car through an intersection while people are
Right.
trying to drive.
Nowadays nobody's gonna get out and help you.
Yeah, and if they do, they're gonna push on my spoiler and rip it off. And so I finally get back home, and I'm like, the only reason I haven't had a complete meltdown is because I was able to get the car back going. Like, if it wasn't, and like the fuel pump had just taken a dump, I would have lost it. I
Right.
would have lost it.
Oh,
And so I get it back to the house, and then I start thinking about it. And there is, like I said, the main hot wire that comes off the alternator runs to the relay in the back, and then the relay has dual grounds just to provide, upgrading both sides of the circuit.
right.
And so when I had installed the ground, it's literally right below the relay in the wheel well. And I had just taken a wire brush and brushed away the paint right there. But it's underneath a clamp that holds my fuel line down. And
Oh,
the backside of that clamp was still painted. And like the paint
um,
that somebody used, I don't know if it's factory or if somebody installed this stuff, but like it's thick stuff under there. Like I went down there with my Milwaukee little polisher sander with a little roll lock disc, and
mhm.
I hit the part that I had already hit with a wire brush just to get it real good. But like just moving more of that paint or the undercoating that's under there, like it just like melts and like
Oh
turns
yeah,
to
I know.
like
It's like
rubber, or like
goo. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's just like spreading, and then I'm like trying to like clean the area, and it's just like mush. And,
Yeah.
and so then I took that bracket out and I sanded the backside of it, put it back in, and plugged the hot wire kit back in. And I checked all the wiring. I didn't remove the loom, underneath the car, but I did a majority of that. And that is,
That's unfortunate.
yeah,
Oh man,
you're a moderator. You
you
fix that.
derailed. I don't even know how. Hold on. Bam. Well, her damn name ain't.
Yeah, it's got a dual ground because I believe uh, one end, one of the grounds is for the actual relay itself, and then the other one is an additional ground for the sending unit. And they just go to one location. So I think, which is weird because I drove the car for a couple hours, an hour at a time last week. And then today it was maybe a 20-minute drive. And out of nowhere, it just said, I'm done. And so I don't know if, like, I
It have
honestly don't,
gotten warm and that goo just kind of.
yeah, I don't know. Like, it was weird. And, so I mean, I plugged it all back in and I fired it up in my garage. I mean, it started right away with the hot wire kit again. And I was like, well, at least now I know if this happens again, I got to get it out again soon. And just so even though like it seems like I fixed it, I want to make sure that that ground is actually
The
what
problem.
caused this and not just like the wiring harness getting hot because it didn't blow the fuse. There's a fuse up by the alternator and it didn't blow that or anything.
Any of the
Uh,
wires look
Everything
like the
looked good. Now I
insulation?
didn't check like now it's just the power wire that runs from the front. There all the other
Oh,
wiring's in the back of the car, so like
right,
that's
right, right.
pretty easy to see and that all looked good. But I kind of have that all bundled up. I just didn't check the main power wire going all the way there, but it doesn't touch anything. It's zip tied all by itself, so it doesn't seem like it'd be rubbing on anything.
That's
Right.
probably what happened.
Yeah. And so I cleaned that whole area like down to like before like with the wire brush I had like a good portion of it, I was like, "Ah, that'll do." But like with these cars like I doubled up on grounds on everything. I when I relocated my battery to the trunk, I have a ground coming from the battery all the way to the front to a 700 amp rated distribution block, which is completely overkill. But I have a ground coming off of it going to the block. I have a ground coming off of it going to the chassis. And then I also took one from the battery in the back and went to the chassis in the back as well. Just because like these cars in the 80s, like they were known for just ground issues. Like
Right.
one little thing about a ground and like it does not like it. So I
Hmm.
made sure, and this I was like, I'm hoping that was what caused it.
Hopefully.
And
Or take it
yeah,
out around the block for a few rips and
yeah, and so in the future when I do the new small block Chevy 427 and redo everything, I plan on dropping the tank again. But when I drop the tank, I'll be cutting the trapdoor. I don't care. It's my car. Like some people are against trapdoors, but I'm over it at this point. And
oh, I hear you.
I'll install the trapdoor, and I'll be switching to the Aeromotive sending unit, which instead of having hard lines coming off the top of it, it has AN fittings, which
Mm,
you can install AN fittings on the factory hard lines like, just by cutting them, and installing
right,
them.
right, right.
But I was just like, I like the idea of just the whole Aeromotive top and the AN fittings, and then I picked up all new AN fuel line, and I'm just gonna literally redo every part of this fuel system. So, and when I run the fuel lines, I'll make sure to run them not an inch away from the header,
Right.
and so we'll see how that goes. That was
Trying to
my
remember how
day.
I did it on the GSX. Was that what? Did I have all factory fuel line up into the engine bay? Because I had to go A in when I did that Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator, remember?
Oh yeah,
And did I put it? Oh man, I don't know. We'll have to think back on that a little bit later.
yeah, because I just kept the factory hard line in mine, and then just bought the converter to go from the factory fitting to AN. And so it's just AN right now from basically my front wheel well to the Phytech, probably like 2.5 feet worth of AN.
Yeah.
But it's all like I'm doing -6 and it's supposed to be equivalent to 3/8 fuel line or 3/8, and I start looking at all these different brands and I want to do PTFE because you can run many different types of fuel through that and it doesn't permeate like regular fuel
Right.
lines where you can smell like if you go up to your fuel line, like if you smell it, like you can smell the fuel
Yeah.
coming through it.
Hmm.
And this, like it's a hard plastic liner on the inside. And I start looking at all these -6s and they're all supposed to be 3/8. And I look at the internal dimensions of it and they all have an internal diameter of 5/16. I'm just like,
Was
well,
that
I was like,
ODS 3
if I replace all of my fuel line with this -6, I'd be downgrading everything because mine is already 3/8 feed, 5/16 return. Now I'd just be shrinking everything to 5/16. And so
Right.
I finally found Fragola, which has a much larger internal diameter and smaller outside diameter. So like the hose isn't as thick as normal AN, but it has a bigger internal diameter.
Hmm.
And it was expensive
Oh,
for
I
the
bet.
amount that I
Sounds
needed,
expensive.
but it was larger. It's a -6, but it's larger than 3/8. So most -6s are actually closer to between 5/16 and 3/8, and this one's larger than 3/8. So that's why I went with
Yeah.
that one.
Do you ever watch DeBoss Garage?
I did a long time ago. I haven't watched it in quite a while.
He uh he uses a lot of that PTFE
Yeah.
fuel line, but I think it's mainly just because everything he builds is a diesel.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you
It
were working on your truck today. How'd that go?
was going real good for the first 5 hours, and
Yeah,
then the last hour was.
fantastic.
So, you know those memes where it's just like a dude laying underneath his vehicle on jack stands just hoping they'll break and
Yeah. So you
okay, that
purposely
couldn't
buy
have
the
that
old
would
Harbor Freight ones.
they are Harbor Freight ones. They're Pittsburgh they're like 4-ton jack stands though, so I
Yeah.
don't have any faith they're gonna break. And it wouldn't have mattered anyway because the front tires are still on.
Oh
And
shucks.
so it would have just,
Been
spooked me a
painful.
little.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So I've got a 2003
That's right.
Silverado um that I had just picked up, and I knew it had come with oil leaks. The oil cooler block off plate was leaking, pretty common leak on the 5.3. Oil pan gasket was leaking, along with numerous other leaks. Today, well, actually yesterday, is that yesterday I started on that?
Mm-hmm.
We had just moved, so I didn't really have an opportunity to do this job. Finally got the garage cleaned out. Yesterday tackled it, got the oil pan off. Um, had to drop the front diff a little bit, about an inch or so, to make clearance for the oil pan. Got that off, pretty uneventful. And then today I, went out into the garage and I got the pan all cleaned up. Got the block off plate installed from Improved Racing.
Yeah, my stuff shows up tomorrow from them.
Oh, right on. Got the block clean. The surfaces are all nice and clean. Made sure I took my time on it. Degreased everything. I mean, everything's clean, dude. And so I get the gasket on the pan, get it aligned, and I do my zip tie on each side to hold it in place. And I'm starting to fit the pan up into the truck, and I realized I forgot to put the bead of RTV on the front and rear cover, so pull it out, put the bead on the front and rear cover, which
Did
was
you
a
already
pain
have
in the
it
ass.
zip tied on?
The gasket was zip tied on, so not a big deal. It was just after being under there for like 5 hours, it's just like
over it.
I probably should have just stopped. Because I was taking my time on the pan. I wanted to get that as clean as I could. Get the RTV on, which was a pain in the ass in itself. I probably should have removed the starter to get rid of the little plastic, like, inspection cover that they have over those.
Yeah.
It would have made it a lot easier. Chose not to, obviously. So I got the RTV on there, and I'm getting the pan put up. I get a couple bolts started. Once again, uneventful, just how I like it. Get the bolts started, and the torque spec for the pan bolts, the 10 mils, are 18 foot-pounds, and I believe the 15 millimeters going from the bell housing into the pan are like 35 or something. That's like a rough guesstimate.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's like a sequence, I guess you want to do it in. So anyway, I'm getting the bolts put in. I get them all snugged up. I had brand new torque wrench that it was a Pittsburgh. I figured it would be decent.
Yeah.
Click style.
Yep.
They were on sale at Harbor Freight, so I'd picked one of those up a while back, and I hadn't used it. And it was a smaller one that I had needed because I didn't have one that would go down that low.
Yeah.
So I set it to 15 foot-pounds to be safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
What does it require? Like 20?
18.
Oh, okay.
So I thought maybe going 3 pounds under at 15, I'd be all right. So I'm going around doing it, and I get to the long, skinny ones like you saw in that pack.
Yeah.
And the other one's torqued just fine. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, and I'm like, man, I don't feel anything. And I was like, that feels like it's stretching. I need to learn to listen to myself. No, dude, I'm so done with click type torque wrenches. The ones I own went straight in the garbage. I have broken one too many bolts with them damn things. Kept going. Bolt snapped off.
What are those two longer ones for?
They're just to accommodate the depth of the pan going into the block.
Oh, okay.
So that literally happened, and I just laid there for 10 minutes. I was so pissed off, dude. And not to mention, like, I don't know if it's visible. Can you see that, like, red spot there? I cracked myself in the head with my damn ratchet, like, 3 times in the same spot. So I've got, like, a goose egg right here. But my tools were getting so, like, oily and greasy, and my hands were so slippery that I should have just quit, dude. So instead, I drop the pan again to assess the situation because I was fully expecting to have to drill this out.
Yeah.
Got all the other bolts out, got the pan dropped, and there was a 1/4 inch of bolt sticking out of probably about the depth of the pan.
Okay. So you're able to grab it with like some pliers.
My fingers, bro.
Oh, really?
I was like,
So this thing just
this is the only reason I didn't absolutely
lose
like
it.
below my top was the fact that screwed out by hand. The only thing that's still pissing me off is now I'm gonna have to wait for a new set of bolts to show up for that pan.
Yeah. Did you
But like
already order those?
No, not yet. I haven't even
Like,
looked yet.
can you
I
just
called.
get those too, or do you gotta order like a whole set?
I don't, dude. I'm so paranoid at this point. I kind of want to get new ones. I don't. I mean, it's probably an unrealistic fear, but I don't know. Like I called Chuck and I told him. I said I'm gonna need your snap-on torque wrench because he's got a digital readout and
Yeah.
it beeps at you.
What I want to know is how this thing broke its head off, but yet the bolt was still loose. Because to be able to get that with your fingertips, unless you got some doing fucking finger curls.
bro, I don't know. I don't know what, because like I said, it was.
Yeah.
Obviously, had to have been over 15 pounds, but
yeah.
I was wondering that too. I'm like, why the hell was that so loose?
Yeah.
Because it felt torqued.
Yeah.
What did I do?
Damn. So
do I just need it?
Do you have the pan? You didn't drop the pan again, or you did?
Oh yeah, the pan's off.
Oh, okay.
I pulled the pan off so I could get my hand on that piece of. I was thinking that too, Mark. Well, because you had got me that set of extractor bits for Christmas.
Yeah.
I was fully anticipating having to use that.
Yeah.
But thankfully, once I got the pan dropped and I seen how much I was going to do the whole 2-nut method and then try to spin it out.
Yeah.
But then I don't know, I grabbed it with my finger and I started turning it and it came out. But now that worries me. I mean, shit, dude, is it like not going to torque up if I get a new bolt? Is something going on there or what?
Right. Like, I don't. What part, is that the front of the pan where those two go?
No, it's the rear by the bell housing for the transmission.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Or yeah, I don't know why I was picturing your transmission. That's. I'm confused on how the head would snap off, yet the bolt's still loose.
I don't know. There was like this much shank. You know, with
what are those like?
On it.
Yeah, what are those like 6-inch bolts? But they're tiny, right?
They're like yeah, they're small. It's
like
only a
1/4
10
inch
millimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. I mean, I might, but God, with as easy as it, like, it didn't feel like it had slop. You know what I mean? It.
Can you run a bolt up there with the pan off?
Oh yeah, I can. I can take the other one and run it up through there and see what it does.
Yeah,
I can do that tomorrow after work or something and see how it
acts.
You're
already gonna order a new set, so I mean, if you break that one, at
least you can... Bro, I am not trying to extract shit out of an engine block. Okay. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to fix leaks.
Well, see, how many bolts hold that pan on? There's probably a solid 20 16. Of them, right? Yeah, I was gonna say
14.
Honestly, you probably only need 10.
Man, if for like 0.2 of a second, I was like, "Do I need that bolt?" And I'm like, "I can't do that. That's ghetto shit. Yeah, I can't do that. Not happening." No.
I was like, shit, when I dropped that nut in my block, and I was like, does it really need to come out? Yeah. Does it really? I was like, I laid there at night. I was like, it's staying. And I was like, oh, it's not. I was like, I only spent 10 years on this thing. I was like, let me just start this thing up and send a nut through the whole thing.
Right.
I was like, I could find it in the oil pan and stick a magnet to the oil pan and just leave it there.
I mean, you probably could have.
Let's not do that.
I was worried. Like, probably put off so long other than moving just because I was like, man, I'm going to pull this pan and I'm just going to see nothing but like forbidden glitter in this pan. Because the pickup's got like 253,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than it being like sludgy where the sump was, it was pretty clean. Nothing that really.
Yeah.
I did find like a drill shaving in there, and I'm hoping that came from when I was drilling out the rivets.
Oh, gotcha.
Because it didn't look like something that
when
would
you
just
were
happen.
cleaning the pan?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what that was.
And it was like gold colored, so I'm wondering if it wasn't part of the
Oh.
cheap ass bit that I used.
As long as it's not bearing.
The bearings ain't gold. Dude, it was like twirled like when you're drilling shit. So I can't imagine it was anything that came out of the motor.
Yeah.
Better not be anyway, damn it. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, other than me having to wait on getting that done, which I guess now will give me time to fix the guy's mess up of putting the damn calipers on the wrong flipping side.
You didn't tell me that.
I didn't?
No.
Oh, man. So, when I started to drop the pan the other day, I'm like working on it, and I look over to my right, and I'm like, why is that bleeder valve on top of the caliper? And I'm like, is this why these brakes feel like they have to press in really far before they start grabbing? Like, I just thought it was, worn brakes or whatever. And then I look over and I'm like, this guy,
Wait,
dude.
was the bleeder was on top?
Yeah, it's supposed to be on the bottom, ain't it?
No.
Are you sure?
Bleeder goes on top.
Bro.
Lets all the air out. Brake fluid settles to the bottom. Did you switch them now?
No, I didn't. No. Dude, are you sure?
Yeah, the bleeder's got to be the highest point.
I thought they had to be on the bottom.
No.
Bro.
Because then none of the air would get out.
Bro. Hold on now. I got to check this. Now I'm questioning everything I thought I knew. For real, dude?
Say, don't tell me all mine are upside down.
Bro, why was I thinking that?
Maybe it's because you were laying on the ground. You ever do that? You lay on the ground and go to tighten something and you're like holding a wrench and you're like, what direction do I got to go?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I got to like stand up and orient myself and be like, okay, which...
Like, I feel like an idiot right now.
Well, no, that's not a... Maybe, okay, well, maybe I'm dumb. Wow. Okay. I'm going to retract that statement.
So you didn't change anything yet, right?
No, I haven't touched that. Okay. I've been fighting broken bolts and oil pans, guy.
Oh, you just noticed this while you were doing
I just noticed it, and I'm like looking at it. I'm like, that should be on the bottom.
I'm glad you didn't change it.
No,
my brakes went from feeling like doo-doo to just not being there.
Not working at all. I wonder what put that in my head so hard that those needed to be on the bottom, dude. I don't know. Well, I guess that's one thing I won't have to worry about then.
Yeah.
Well, I told Chuck, I said, I want to look at your pickup and verify, because I said, I feel like they should be on the bottom. I said, but I don't know. And then he's just like, yep, they should be. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, they should be then.
Now you call him and be like, this is your fault.
Just be like, hey, Chuck,
you just agreed with me to agree with me.
Just to get me off the phone.
Yeah.
Yep, sure, yeah. Actually, you need to put the fronts on the rears and the rears on the fronts.
It's like
well, the only reason that made me question it is because the guy put what is that, Power Stop brand? They make, I don't know what.
Yeah, that's what I have on my truck now.
Okay, he put those all the way around on this truck.
Mm-hmm.
And he just didn't seem very automotive inclined, but now I'm kind of making myself seem that way too.
Well, if he put all new calipers on there, he probably didn't bleed them. If he's not,
I don't know what to think because like when I was talking to him when I first bought it, he's like, "Well, my mechanic told me it's going to need knock sensors soon." So I don't know if he would have done it or if he would have taken it somewhere and had it done.
Yeah.
I mean, they bite well once I get the pedal pressed. to a certain point, I just feel like they should be biting a little bit sooner.
Yeah. I was like, I had to work on a Tacoma, and what was it, a 23 Tacoma yesterday. And I was not used to, like, I'm used to my truck, and like I get in this thing, I tap the brakes, and I almost went through the windshield.
I hate that when I'm driving somebody's vehicle
Yeah. I'm like,
and it's like a new vehicle. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, you remember when I had to go to Minneapolis to pick
yeah,
up Andrew?
yeah.
Dude, okay, so what did I have there? It was like a
Malibu or an Impala
22.
or something.
No, it was an Impala. Dude, that
Yeah.
thing got 625 miles to a tank of gas.
That's double what I get.
I
And I
I
have a
made it
21-gallon tank.
Yeah, I made it to the St. Paul Minneapolis airport and then halfway home before I had to fill up again.
Good Lord.
It
Like, I
was
don't
I
even
don't
think
know.
my old Malibu got that. I think I averaged like 32 to 30 point that thing. I mean, it was good. And I obviously didn't buy my truck for gas mileage, but I remember when I got it, I pulled off the dealership lot, and it had 3 or 6 miles on it or whatever. And they had just filled it up for me, and I go to pull off the lot, and it says 530.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I remember you
hell
telling me.
yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna go forever on this. First fuel up, drop down to 350. I'm like, what the hell? Then I start doing stuff to the truck. It just progressively gets worse and worse. Like this last winter, I was down to 280 miles like to the tank. I was just like, well, that's unfortunate. I was like, the turbos, they like cool weather. They don't like cold weather. And the
Right.
bigger tire, especially when I did the high output tune, like that didn't, I'm guessing that didn't help with gas mileage. I'm constantly carrying 1,000 pounds. My truck is the furthest thing from aerodynamic, and the big tires, like I think I was averaging, my worst was like 11 to 13 miles to the gallon. But 465 here, when you get on the highway, like it is ridiculous. The speed limit's 55. I remember when I first moved here, if you get on 465 and go 55, you are getting shot or ran off the road. Like,
Jeez, sounds like
I
a good
remember
time.
cops blowing by me. I was like, are they chasing somebody? I'm like, no, everybody just zooming by. I'm like, this is not 55. I was like, let me try 60, 65. No, cars are still everybody in the left two lanes are going 80 to 85.
Jeez.
And no, the cops will just roll with you. Now they're starting to crack down on it. They put this whole camera system up above the highway, and it's got like 10 cameras on it on the top, and then 2 on each end, so they'll catch you from the side. And all I do is I flip my sun visor.
Oh, so they can't get your face.
Yeah, even though my shirt says my name. I'm like, those cameras can't be that good.
Right.
I'm like, honestly, if they wanted to,
Probably
they'll probably
sees through
see
your
my,
visor.
yeah, they probably see like my beard, and they're like, just like, my excuses, that's not me driving. Yeah, that looks like the bottom half of my face. Yeah, and everybody drives super close, and God forbid you are not going as fast, because like you get over, and like, but getting over, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I can't stand driving on 465 here. It's the big loop that goes around Indy, and people drive like complete idiots. And like, but you're basically, unless you stay in the right hand lane, but then you're fighting people coming on and getting off constantly. It's either you stay over there and deal with that, or you speed. Like, there's no, because like people will get pissed if you're not speeding.
Oh, dude, that's like when I was going to RCA training in Omaha, and I don't even remember where it took me. I think it was down Dodge. But it gets to a point where it feels like a residential area, and you should not be doing the speed that you're doing,
Yeah.
even
Oh
though it's
yeah,
like,
because everything's so close and so small. But even though
yeah,
it's like
dude,
35, 40 miles an hour, whatever it is, it feels like you're going
like
ridiculously
60
fast.
mile an hour,
Yeah.
dude.
And
And
like
I'm
the
like,
turns are all super tight and small.
yeah, I'm like, oh my God, this sucks. So when I
Yeah.
left there to get home, I went the back way out, so I didn't have to deal. I was like, that was giving me anxiety. Holy
Yeah.
cow, dude.
Yeah. That was just like the first time I drove up to Chicago. I don't know if
Oh,
that's 74 or what, but like, dear Lord, it
yeah,
was
I
a
remember
nightmare. I
going
remember
through
a
trouble with
car
dad as a kid.
car got in front of me, and split me the bird. I'm just like, what the hell? I was like, I'm
Oh
going
yeah.
85. I was like, this is ridiculously fast. I'm
You
like,
ever been
they're
through
mad because
Michigan?
I'm not going like 95. I don't think I ever went through Michigan.
Oh my god, dude. People in Michigan, and I apologize if anybody's from Michigan, but every time I've been through Michigan, people on the roads are just they are aggressive, dude.
Yeah.
Like towards you.
Yeah. Like
Like
in every way possible.
yeah, definitely. Like, oh, cool. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get like, because I drive to work, on 465 every day, I, in the wintertime, I'll probably get 11 to 14. And there's one dealership I go to that it's a different route and I travel about 65 to 70. So about 10 to 15 miles an hour less than my other days. And I'll go up to like 17, 18 miles the gallon. I'm just like, it's a huge difference for 10 mile an hour. Like, it makes a huge difference. I was like, I remember when I first got the truck, it was like 24, 22, and like eventually when I filled up, it said 280 miles to the tank. I was just like, well, that is really unfortunate. But like now it's
Um,
like, now that it's nicer weather and anytime I don't have to drive with people that like to drive at Mach bejesus, I get a decent what 320 to the tank, which isn't awesome, but it's not horrible.
so what do you average like what's your highest average you've seen on the highway with like all the stuff you've got loaded down on the truck?
I was gonna say the highest I've seen on the truck is probably 24 or 25, but that was before I had everything. Now the best I see is maybe 17 if I'm real good to it,
See, I'm
but
just because
normally around 14 to 15.
I'm curious because 24, 25, but that granted that's a mid-sized pickup too, right? It's not
Yeah.
a um I'm just still I'm like in that camp of I think these newer trucks with the turboed four bangers is
It's not for fuel
super.
mileage, I can tell you that.
I don't understand it. Like I literally don't get it. I think
Because you
it's
can't put
dumb.
a smaller engine in something that's heavy and expect
Well,
it
you
to
what are you doing with it? Like most people that are buying a pickup are pulling something, and
yeah,
when you're pulling something, what do you need to get moving?
torque.
Torque.
That's why these
Okay,
trucks are so good at it because these little four it's they base this design off of a diesel engine. So it's got a lot of torque. It's got 420 foot-pounds of torque. So I mean it's plenty powerful and it can pull up to almost 8,000 pounds for a
but you
mid-sized
still
truck.
can't tell me that's not a shitload of stress on a four-cylinder motor,
Oh
dude.
yeah, I'm sure. Especially with like how complex they've made everything now, the oiling system and the coolant system in this thing, if it ever goes bad or you have issues with it, it is going to be a damn nightmare because
I
like
believe.
it's really efficient. Like as far as how they've designed it, they have a lot of valves and external piping that circulates coolant and oil to these certain locations when necessary, which really allows the engine to perform at its best. But there are so many valves and lines added to this thing. Like if you have an issue with it, it's going to be a nightmare because all of it's the engine, engineering. They don't care about how you go
No,
about
yeah,
fixing something. It's just as long as they've designed it to perform how they want, they could care less how it's going to be when it needs to be fixed. So I'm just like, I
so
want to keep this truck for a really long time, but I'm just like, I'm hoping that it's got a long life, like because I
right.
don't want
Well,
to
see,
deal with some of these things. And I think my CV axles are going bad.
oh, great. But see that like that's my point. Okay, so like my truck is an '03. That's 22 years old, 253,000 miles on it, and I'm getting 19 miles per gallon average on the highway
Yeah,
with a V8 that has no DOD on it.
yeah,
I don't have all the complicated bullshit to get the power. It's just a fucking reliable
yeah,
basic like I don't know. To me it's just counterintuitive because in the long run it's going to end up costing more for the customer
yeah.
with all
Well,
this. Well, what was that coolant shit you were dealing with here not too long ago?
that was when they decided to re-engineer the wheel And instead of just
Exactly.
putting a damn rubber hose on this thing, they put
Yeah.
this fancy ass end on this hose to be a quick release hose. I'm like, bitch, it takes a worm clamp.
Right.
Like it
That's
doesn't
all it
take a
needs.
scientist to figure out how to operate a worm clamp. You loosen it, you pull the hose off. And
Right.
now you basically pull a clip and it's just a metal ring. And inside that metal ring on the end of the hose, there's an O ring. I'm like, what's wrong with just a hose that fits over a barbed end? I'm like, it's the same thing without the additional crap. I'm like, now the thing is that these O rings and the coolant that GM uses, and then whatever, I don't know if it's aluminum or a steel ring. I'm sure it's a steel ring, but it mixing with the whatever type of rubber or material that they made this O-ring out of, it's building up that corrosion or that
Like galvanic
chemical,
corrosion or
yeah,
whatever.
like and it's basically
Or
causing the O-ring to not seal properly when it's cold. So in the wintertime, when it was cold before my truck warmed up, it would seep coolant out of the top radiator hose, and then as soon as it warmed up, it would stop. And then Badlands Badland Industries, I think was the YouTube channel. He's got one, and he found an O-ring that was the correct diameter and thickness, and so I bought a 10-pack of them off of Amazon because it was like $8.
hell yeah.
And so I took it to one of my dealerships, and me and my buddy tore it down and put the new O-ring in there. And then I told the dealership that I bought it from, because I also service them. I told them about it, and they're like, "Oh well, we don't see it leaking." I was like, "Well, that's because I fixed it." But they're like, "We're gonna put it under warranty anyways." So they're really cool, and
Oh,
because a
good.
lot of dealerships wouldn't do that, and
Right.
so they just ordered me a whole new upper hose, which sucks for them because like it's not like a small block, like the hose isn't accessible, and there's another small hose that they had to replace too, I believe, that just comes with the upper radiator hose. So they're like, well, we have to replace this and this. I was like, well, that's dumb, but okay, let's just mess with things we don't need to mess with. But he had to remove my entire intake and a bunch of other stuff to access where the actual upper radiator hose goes to. And so they put a new one in, and before he installed it, I asked if I could see the new hose, and they had in fact changed the style of O-ring that they put in there. So I was like, oh well, at least they
Fix
know
that.
that that's a problem. But yeah, a year of owning my Colorado, I had the warped rotor. Well, the wear sensor
Uh,
had been completely deleted, like just annihilated. Uh,
oh, geez.
and I think, what was it? My driver's side rotor was warped. And I remember I was trying to order rotors and brake pads, and they're like, "Well, we can get brake pads, but we can't get the rotors." I was like, "Well, I'm not putting new brake pads on a warped rotor."
Yeah.
Uh, so I was like, "Let me know when you guys can get new rotors." And or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe they could get rotors but not brake
I think it was
pads.
the pads
E-
you couldn't get.
yeah, and I was like, either way, I wasn't going to put one with the other.
Right.
And so I told him to contact me, and like 2 or 3 months went by, and I was just like, "This is dumb." Like, I've had the truck it had been out for almost 2 years. I'm like, it's brakes and brake pads. It's not the coolant system. Like, I'm not asking you to invent something.
Yeah,
Like,
or need like
it's
some part that's like super deep internal in the motor.
yeah, like these are things that should be out within a couple
Yeah,
months of the vehicle being released. And I mean
absolutely.
that's kind of something that you got to deal with, when you buy something of its first generation or a new generation of it. And
Yeah.
but it was just dumb. I'm like, this is something that should be released, not something that can wait, because it's not something that's going to be a wear and tear item necessarily. Uh, so eventually, I think I just released a video on it. I actually did that brake change and rotor change like 4 months ago, but I just
Oh,
released
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Uh, I was just like that, and it was a common issue. Like, multiple people are having it. It's not like I'm sure my whole setup didn't help with it. I'm sure that made everything, faster. But a lot of other people were having the exact same issue with the rotors, just whatever they'd used. But I know somebody had done a bunch of research and found out that it really does. It is a nightmare. And I feel like a lot of times they just do it just to feel like they did something new.
We were talking about something when we were discussing this coolant hose, and I don't remember if it was something that the coolant hose was running to, and I'm going, like, the entire time I was just like, why? What was wrong with the old way of doing it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What did we gain from
from
changing it to
changing
that?
it? Nothing. Like you just had
Just made
extra
it way
time on
more
your hands, and
complicated.
you're like, look what I came up with.
I honestly feel like it's a lot of trying to get, like, the backyard mechanic, like, you have to take your car
Yeah.
to the dealership.
Well, that was just like when I had my Malibu. That car was fantastic. I had wanted that since it had came out. I remember me and you would go to Plainfield. Plainfield?
Plainview.
Plainview. Plainfield is here.
Like, bro.
We used to go to Plainview, and I remember you would look at the Buick LaCrosse and Buick Lucerne.
Lucerne was, that's what I wanted.
And I remember going there, and I had seen the new generation Malibu, and I was like, I never wanted a 4-door car before, but it was like, I think it came out 2011, 2012, because that's what year mine was. And I remember seeing it. I was like, dang, I was like, this thing's nice. And then when I got back from Afghanistan, like, I had the money to put a down payment on basically anything I could have wanted. And my first thought was, well, I remember I had my 300ZX and I was going back home to see you guys. And I was like, there's no way I'm driving my 300ZX. The water pump is going to take a shit or something stupid is going to happen 200 miles down the road. And so my buddy Aguirre just let me drive his brand new Honda Accord.
I remember that. That was a nice car.
And so he just let me drive it. And I was like, he was super cool. And I told him I would just do an oil change on it, for him and top it up with gas. And then he just let me borrow it to drive back home because he was flying back to California to see family. And after I drove his car, I was like, I need to buy a car that's reliable. Like, everything I've owned up to this point has just been drive it, fix it, drive it, fix it. Like, 88 Cavalier, 87 Camaro, 93 Blazer. I miss my Blazer.
The Cavalier didn't even have enough power to get out of its own way.
No, it was 88. I think I know it went over 85 because I tried to get the gauge to go all the way back to 5.
Took a half an hour to get there.
It did. It did.
Sounded like a rocket.
Yeah. I didn't get a ticket or pulled over for my exhaust until I put a fake pipe on it. It had no exhaust. It stopped at the cat right in the middle of the car. And just for the fun of it, I found a galvanized steel, like, stovepipe for like a fireplace. And
that's probably why.
I literally, it wasn't connected to anything. I just zip tied it and literally just wired it, just steel wire up to where the exhaust would be, and it's just like hanging. Like, that car was a beater up. Like, within 2 days of having that fireplace pipe on there.
Was it in town?
Yeah.
It had to have been.
Was it Duncan? No, I don't think it was. It Duncan.
I could see Duncan doing it, but
who's the one that went to do insurance?
It was Waterman.
Was it?
Yeah.
Maybe it was. I don't know.
Yeah, it was I guarantee you it was Waterman.
Like, this thing's way too loud. I'm like, it's been this way for like 4 years, right? I just, that pipe underneath there isn't connected to anything. Yeah, so he made me buy an exhaust for it. It was like $200. And then I realized how bad of shape the car was actually in, because when we put the exhaust on it,
just every motor sound.
I'm like, dang, I was like, I didn't know it sounded like that. But Yeah, when I drove my buddy's Accord back home, I was like, I need something reliable, and I bought that. It just, I remember looking at it when I was younger before I joined the army, and I was like, I want that. And I
Right.
found one at CarMax, and I remember the first car I saw at CarMax was a 2015 Pontiac GTO 6-speed manual in red. And I was like,
Hell yeah.
hell yeah. I was like, I'm
Should
gonna
have got
get
it.
this. It was like 15 or 16,000. I'm like, this is mine. And I was like, the reason I already have a 300ZX, it's basically the same size. I was like, I'm looking at a four-door car because I want something with more room.
Right.
And so I ended
Man.
up buying the Malibu. I was like, I look back on it, I was like, I could have literally bought any car. I didn't have a family at the time. Like I just
Right.
wanted more room to have more room and have a reliable car. And I knew if I bought the GTO, I would make it a project car. And
Oh,
it
definitely.
probably would not be a reliable car after that.
Does any
And
car though? Every car turns into a project car. Look at all the shit you
yeah,
did to your truck.
well, my Malibu even like my Malibu, as soon as it showed up to the dealership, it sold 6 hours later. Like they didn't even have
Jeez.
the paperwork and stuff done for it. I was basically just leaving the dealership when it was selling
Wow.
because I had just done so much to it. But it wasn't like over the top stupid. It was just little touches here and
Clean.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had only had a water pump issue with it, which I remember I was in college at the time, so I had to buy a timing chain hold tool to hold the timing chain in place while you change the water pump. Other than that, it wasn't that bad. It was maybe a 3-hour job for the first time ever doing that. Otherwise, it was probably like an hour and a half job or something like that. Uh, and then the only other dumb thing, talking about over engineering things, you cannot change the headlights on that generation of Malibu without dropping the front bumper. And people will argue, yes, you can. You just unbolt the side of the bumper and you rip it to the side. I'm like,
No,
yeah,
not
if
doing it.
you're an
Yeah.
idiot, I was like, go ahead. But if you want to properly do things without ripping your car to pieces, you have to drop it. Now, one side of the car, you can remove the battery, and then there's the ECU and a couple other things. You can unbolt and move all of that stuff, and then you can kind of gain access to it per one of the bulbs, the high or the low beam. But other than that, that's it. You have to remove the front bumper or do it the getaway and rip it to the side and force your way
Alex's
up in there.
cruise was the same way.
But it was like, if you're proficient at it, maybe an hour job, but it's a headlight that should take 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, it's
But
like
you're
my
taking
pickup.
an hour to change a headlight, and it's just done that way because there's no reason that they couldn't leave it open in the back. There's literally zero reason that you would completely enclose this from the
Yeah.
engine bay, other than the fact that you want it brought into the dealership. You want customers to stop doing work for themselves and bring it back. Like there's literally no reason for it.
Dude, to take the housing off of like my truck, it's a pin going this way and a pin going up and down. And you literally just pop it out, turn it, and remove the pin, and the whole housing just comes out. You
Yeah.
don't have to do that to change the ball, but I'm just saying, like,
Right.
dude.
Yeah. I'm just like, that's why, like, I'm kind of glad that I never got fully into the automotive field as far as like going to work at the dealership. Cause like I worked at a couple shops while going to college and then doing college. But then like I think I was going to go to work at CarMax before I got hired onto the race team. And the race team was fantastic because like I learned just the job that I needed to. It wasn't like I was working on 100 different makes and models a week. I just worked on what I needed to work on, whether that was body and tires or if that was the bottom end of the engine. Like my job was my job and I focused on that and that alone. And then like I realized that I just love classic cars
Right.
and that is my jam. Like I'll be out here cussing up a storm when I'm trying to do something. My wife like opens the garage door. She's like, "You doing okay?" I'm like, "About the best I can. Best I can."
That's how
She's
it is
like, "Is
with
this
me.
car worth it?" I'm like, "It's the only thing that's worth
Yeah.
it." I'm like about to punch a hole in the door, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel you on
I was
that,
like, this is
dude.
the only thing I enjoy doing. Like
And it's weird, too, because you get so
so
fucking
mad.
pissed. Dude,
Like
and I've
we have a
like, what
love
the
hate
fuck?
relationship. Like if I didn't put so much money into you, I'd punch you right in the face.
Right, dude? Man. That makes me wish I still had the old GS6.
Yeah.
one of these days.
Yeah. I was gonna send you a link to one that I saw yesterday. All black GSX, $2,500.
What?
Yeah. And I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm sending it to him. I read the description. He's like, underbody and framing is all rusted out, parts car only. I was like, shit. I was like, no wonder it's $2,500. I was like, damn,
dude.
because like the body and interior like seemed like, and the engine, everything was still there, and it seemed to be pretty dang decent shape, but the frame was completely rotted out. I was like, it was probably sitting in a yard somewhere, just rotting away.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not even gonna send it to him because he's gonna see the price and then he's gonna see the problem. Well, there
Yep.
goes that dream.
Yeah. No, I'll get one of these. I don't want something that's immaculate because I want to do
Things to it.
Yeah, well, I want to do what I was gonna do with mine.
Mhm.
Stroke it out and
I do that all the time.
someday. Oh fuck. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I can find a damn bolt set for that pan.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. I'm hoping that O-ring I put in was right because the one that came off the pickup tube was fucking green.
Oh yeah, was that a pretty easy install?
It wasn't bad. The only O-rings that were available for me to get were the red and the black. And since they were so cheap, I was just like, I'll order both just in case. And I put the red one on, and I'm like, well, that seems right. And it was about the same size as the other one, but it was hard to gauge it because that O-ring, it was just so flat.
Oh yeah.
And
that's what causes it to suck air, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, well, let me put the black one on and see, because I remember even pulling it out though, it still had some kind of resistance to it.
Yeah.
So I put the black O-ring on, and it's just like I'm not getting any kind of positive push. It's just going right in.
Yeah.
So I put the red one on, which I knew it was going to be the one it needed anyway, and I could feel it kind of seat. And so I bolted it in, and I was just like, well, it's either going to be the right one, or I'm not going to have any oil pressure when I start the fucking truck.
Yeah.
I think it'll be all right. I hope I get that oil pan gasket lined up right and it doesn't leak on me.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. It can't be any worse than what it was.
It better not be anywhere near worse than what it was, dude. Holy shit, dude.
I literally thought that was a felt liner. I didn't know that was metal. That thing was
gravel. Trashed. Oh yeah, bro. Oh my god. You should have seen my pad in front of my garage today, power washing all that shit. I sprayed everything with Dawn Platinum Power
Wash or what?
Power Wash.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good degreaser.
How's it going? Yeah, so I figure we're gonna try to do these live streams if I can figure out my microphone. I don't know what's going on.
There's gotta be something with the audio interface.
I don't know what's going on. And we're gonna try and do these probably one video a week for a couple weeks, and then we'll step up to 2. And it just depends on timing and how much time we got. But we're gonna go over a few different topics. So if anybody's watching this and you guys have suggestions on what you would like to discuss or what you guys would like us to discuss, just drop it down in the comments. I got a few ideas written down, and we're gonna try and do like an hour to an hour and a half live stream, so nothing too crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about, or
next time we get started, it'll actually be
on time and operating correctly. Because
we'll try to prepare a little bit more.
Yeah.
I didn't get done on the truck until 6, and then I showered and I literally ate dinner and got done about 10 minutes before.
Oh yeah.
We were going to be starting this.
It's a Bible verse, Psalms 144:1. Yeah,
So
so I wrote down like some ideas. We'll go over like what my Camaro plans are in the future. If people want to hear about what I do for a living, I can go over some stuff like that. We can go over things that Sean's had to do to his vehicle recently, issues that I've had with my car other than the fuel pump. Uh, we can go over maybe some of our favorite cars that we would like. If we could own any cars, maybe our top three or something like that. Which I got to thinking about that. I'm like, that's really hard. Like, I could name off three classics, but then there's like three imports that I would really like, and there's so many cars. Like, so like that's a really hard one.
what did I eat for dinner? I had it was chicken stuffed with spinach and
Chicken cordon bleu with spinach,
well, see, isn't chicken cordon bleu with cheese and ham?
ham. Yeah.
Yeah, see, this had spinach and I'd have to ask Heather, I don't remember. And then green beans, broccoli, fried potatoes.
Oh, nice. We had
Yeah,
something similar.
it was pretty bomb.
I grilled some chicken, and my wife made some baked potatoes, but she baked them, cut them in half, and then scooped out the inside, mixed it with cheese and bacon, put it back in there, baked it some longer. So I don't know if you call that like a twice baked potato or whatever you want to call it. And then my son had a Caesar salad because he's hated lettuce for years until he actually tried it. Now he just loves Caesar salads, and
Is
he
he?
ate
Is
that.
he? Will he not like try it? Like even like before he's even tried it, is he like,
For the
oh no,
longest
it's
time, yeah,
gross,
he's
it's
like, "That is
disgusting.
gross, I'm not eating that," and then he'll try it,
Yeah,
and, like, sometimes, he'll be like, "I'm definitely not eating that,"
yeah.
and then sometimes he'll be like, "Oh," he won't want to admit it, but then he's like, "I'll take more." I'm like, "Yeah, well, maybe, try it before you judge it,"
When I was working out at
and
the
then we
farm.
had zucchini as well, and that
Oh,
was so
I we
good.
had some of that too. Yeah, we had fried zucchini too. I forgot about that. I only had a couple pieces on my plate, so
I got a little Sazerac rye.
I did have sweet tea, but I ran out.
Ugh. So it was a good dinner, and I ate way I think I had 4 of the baked potatoes.
Oh
You
shit!
know, and then I took the chicken and I cut it up and I mixed it with some uh, table onion and some hot sauce and wrapped it in a tortilla and stuffed it down my
All your
gullet.
guts are
It's
blowed
messed
out
up.
there.
Yeah, yeah. I die about
I
6 times a
am
day.
located in northeast Nebraska. Still in the hometown Tony grew up in.
Yep. Ugh. Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm
don't know.
excited to do the video about stupid things we've done on to ourselves while working on cars or
Oh
to
my god,
cars.
bro, dude,
We'll go
my
over.
hand is like my finger, like
Oh,
it
is that
doesn't
from the
look bad
oil
on the
pan?
camera. Yeah, dude, but like it sliced it all the way back to here, and you can like see the meat on my knuckle
Yeah.
because I was trying to.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get the green Scotch Brite. They had a different kind one there. They had like a sponge with this deal wrapped around it. So I was like, oh, I'll try that out.
Yeah.
Seemed more pokey. And
That's what I look for in a Scotch Brite pad, pokey.
yeah, you need that pokiness in it. And I'm sitting there scrubbing the side of the pan, and my hand slipped, and my knuckle came down right on the edge of the aluminum pan, and it just fucking sliced me, dude.
Next time you're doing that to prevent it, you just you don't do that.
Oh, good call, bro. Yes, we. When did we meet?
Yeah.
I was.
I was probably 7. You were probably
Nah, dude,
9.
it had to have been younger than that.
Yeah, maybe 5 and 7.
I was gonna say we were pretty young.
Yeah.
How old were you when you moved out of that house across from
Oh,
Largent's?
I was young. Young.
Yeah,
It
dude,
had to be
because you
around
guys,
5 or 6.
yeah. So they lived right up the street from me.
I was
Well,
1 block up and 1 block, half a block over. And then when we moved, I was literally right next door, just across
yeah,
the
like
street.
right across the street from me. So we grew up together, went to high school together. He was just 2 grades below me.
Yeah.
He graduated in 09.
Yep.
Played football together. And then just genuinely screwed off, I guess.
Yeah. That was a time.
Indiana.
Oh yeah, Indiana.
You remember driving to Yankton in my GSX bumping we got into Yankton and I started playing Michael Jackson. We were going to get those studs I needed for that tubular exhaust manifold so I could get my turbo bolted up.
Yeah, I remember we tried to race that Pontiac and it smoked us.
Bro.
That thing was
Yeah, well,
ridiculous.
see, and I
It
talked
was
to my
that
buddy Taylor.
GXP.
It had stickers on it that I don't even think were like, I think this guy had these stickers made because I messaged my buddy Taylor, right? Because he had a silver GSX, I had a red one. Like we couldn't go through Yankton without somebody trying to race us. There was always a yellow
Especially
SRT4 that would
Yankton.
mess.
Like there were so many cars that like.
Right. And I had never really lost a race there other than that Pontiac and this dude.
I would just say it was due to us needing to work on the car. So.
Well, dude, okay, so I messaged Taylor because I knew he would know who this guy was, and I was like, dude, I said, who drives around Yankton with a silver GXP? And the first thing he said to me was, did you race him? And I said, yeah, and he wouldn't pull over, and he said he won't. And I said, what the hell did he do to that car? And he just said everything. And I said,
I'm pretty sure it was
because it just blew my. It definitely was, dude. But he like everything had been gone over. Like that car was not anything close to what it used to be.
Super clean. Like it's funny because I love those the Pontiac Grand Prix and Grand Dams. Like when they were 2000s. Done right, yeah, like they were such nice cars.
Oh yeah, dude. For that thing to smoke my Eclipse like it did.
Yeah, I remember
like
you hadn't lost
the line.
Yeah, because especially being all-wheel drive and like.
Right. There was a guy in Bloomfield that had a old Challenger, but I think it just had a 318 in it, and he would harass me all over town. So I finally took him out and beat him. The only cars my Eclipse lost to was that Grand Prix. There was a machine shop in Yankton there for a while. I was gonna actually take my car there to get the intercooler piping welded because I kept blowing couplers.
Oh yeah.
But this guy had a Fox body Mustang, and I knew I was toast the minute I lined up next to him because his exhaust was exiting the front bumper.
Yeah.
And he just absolutely blew the doors off of me, and then he pulled up into a parking lot. He was so far ahead of me and flagged me down, and he's like, the motor in these cars are the only 4 cylinders I ever have any respect for. Yeah. And then he popped his hood, dude, and his intercooler piping was a work of art. Yeah. Like all the welds on it and the bend. I mean, I was like, bro, I need you to do this to my car. And then there was. Did you ever see that Monte Carlo in Bloomfield that had the blower like past the roof of it and had wheelie bars on it?
No,
this was like a 80s Monte Carlo.
Oh, okay. No, I never saw that one.
I parked next to this dude at the car show, and his supercharger was like the size of my engine.
Probably more liters.
It definitely was. It dynoed at 997, I think, because he goes. Everybody always gives me,
especially like early 2000. Like what was that? Like 2010, maybe
910.
Yeah, like that was a lot of power back then. Like it's still a lot of power, but like not many people were running that much power unless they were a drag specific car. Like
right. And he had this like as wide of tires as he could put on it as far as being like a street tire and stuff.
Yeah.
And he goes, everybody gives me shit because they would go, why didn't you try shooting for 1,000? And he's like, what, at 997, what the hell's the point of another 3 horsepower?
Yeah.
It definitely was an everyone knows everyone town. And it was everyone knows everyone and all the other towns surrounding it.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
And your business is everyone's business and their business is your business. That's why I just pretend like I didn't want to talk to anybody. Because
I
I'm
don't.
here to talk to anybody.
Yeah, I don't talk to anybody now. I just kind of go to work, come home, and do my own thing. But yeah, those are the only cars that really.
I remember the Aurora. The
Thank
only
you.
one we lost to is what's his name's Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Yeah, Seth's.
I mean, it's Thunderbird.
Was it a Thunderbird?
Yeah, because him
I
and
thought it was a Lincoln.
I think him and no. Who was that kid back in the day that had that Super Coupe, that really clean silver Super Coupe, dude? Because Reggie Ekman had a white Thunderbird that was super
Yeah.
duper clean,
Yeah.
and then there was oh shit, his younger brother's name was Jeremy, and he was a grade ahead of me.
Dang.
I think everybody called him Debo.
I know that name. I don't know who it actually is.
Yeah, I can't remember his last name, but
I remember when we got the Aurora. That thing ripped.
well, that was the fastest car I had ever been in until my
Yeah.
Eclipse. I mean, I got that one up to 140 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Back roads.
Yeah. Well, that's basically all our town was back roads. Like,
yeah.
not a single stoplight. Like,
we had old Winnetoon Road. We'd go. Remember pouring bleach on there and then jacking the e-brake on the Avenger and doing front wheel burnouts.
yeah.
Pouring
oil on the oil. What did we put on the road? Oil or what?
It was like, oil and bleach.
Just anything we could put on the
smoke.
road. Yeah.
And then I spun that bearing. And then that dude from down the road came up and he's like, having problems? And I was like, yeah, it's clattered a little bit. So he let us pull it up into his yard, and he was telling us how back in the day, him and his brother had a motor blow up, and he said we had a big hole that we had dug. Like, people around here just bury shit to get rid of it. And so they put this fucking car in this hole and left it in neutral and just threw a fucking brick on the gas pedal, and they wanted to see how long it would take before it blew up. And he said it ran for like 4 hours before it seized. He's like, we couldn't believe it. And I was
Probably
like,
just ran out of gas.
Yeah, probably. I was like, mine's broke, so I was doing dumb shit.
Yeah, Mark, I remember that. Like, well, that was just like these third gens. Like the popular option, get a 350 with a whopping 221 horsepower.
When did they start? Didn't they start advertising that? What that was it? Turbo fuel injection or some shit?
Yeah, tune port.
Tune port. There you go.
Yeah, that was like the back of my old 87 said multi-port fuel and multi-port FI. And I remember when I got it, I was like, "What the heck is multi-port F1?"
It's a race car.
I was like, this thing's got to be super fat. And it had the 2.8 liter V6 in it, just like this one had when I bought it. And the thing was about as gutless as they come.
Oh my god, that's funny. I wonder what the slowest thing I owned was.
Mine was definitely the Cavalier.
Either had to be
besides the cracked distributor and like hitting water puddles, just completely shutting the car down. Like, besides that car was just solid. Well, except for when I drove to your house before I was leaving for basic and I stayed with you for a few nights. I remember I was driving there, my brake lines blew.
Oh.
That's when I traded it to Wesley for his new $1,000 laptop.
Oh, I remember that, dude. Because I was like,
my dad bought the car for $200 when my sister was supposed to turn 16 and drive, and she didn't end up getting her driver's license. So I was like, I'll take it. You know, it runs.
I remember you telling me you traded your car for a laptop, and I was just thinking, what the fuck?
I think I used that laptop like 8 times before I just then I went to Korea and I ended up buying a desktop. And I think that computer just like it had no antivirus and like it just went to dog crap real quick. But I was like, I'm pretty sure Wesley blew that Cavalier up within like 2 months of owning it because he kept doing neutral drops in it.
Does that surprise you when we?
No, it doesn't. It's funny because that thing was the biggest hunk of junk, but I felt so bad for giving it to such a hunk of junk of a person.
Oh, I feel you. No, it's because you were attached to the car. Yeah. I mean, it was a piece of shit, but you were attached to it.
It was 4 years that I was attached to it. Like, I made that thing last. Like, that deer ran into me. Took out my headlight, hood, and I bought a whole nother Cavalier from the junkyard for $200 and took the whole front end off of it and put it on my car. And then
Can't
I
even
took
get a
the top
fucking
end of the
motor.
engine and I put it in my car.
You can't even get a motor from the junkyard for
I know.
$200 anymore.
And I was like, oh. And he destroyed it within a couple of months.
Remember that night in the bank parking lot when I had just got my Eclipse and we were looking at that custom fiberglass sub box in the back and there was that capacitor that was mounted in there and Wesley comes up and he's like, "Oh, is that nitrous?" And I'm like, "Yeah," in a can the size of a soda bottle.
Yeah.
Fucking
It's to get from here to right there.
I was like, "What the fuck, dude?" Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a little spit.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the cars back in the day probably weighed more than my truck do today.
I'm trying to think because I like when I'm watching or when I used to watch a lot of like Roadkill, like with Freiberger and Dulcich.
Yeah.
They'd always. I know. Well, I'm trying to keep tabs on their YouTube channel now,
Yeah.
but
Well, because Freiberger, he
yes,
does
sir.
announcing for NHRA now.
Oh, yep, cornfields and soybeans.
Yeah, a car for a laptop is a wild trade if you didn't know what the car was. But it was literally a car that my dad had bought for $200, and it sat in the driveway for, I don't know, maybe 2 years. And I remember always stealing my dad's gas can for the lawnmower when I was 15, and I'd dump it in that car, and I'd go out to Winnetoon and I'd drive around just to learn how to drive.
I did that with the Intrepid, dude.
And then my dad'd be like, "Where the hell's all my lawnmower gas at?" Oh, I mowed the grass.
He also did that with all of his wire strippers and his wire nuts and all that stuff because we kept throwing stereos and shit.
Everything. And God, we thought we were professionals. But by golly, you look back at it and we just had things taped to things. And
oh my God, dude, it's so lucky
it
we
looked
didn't
clean
burn
because a
car
lot of it
down.
was hidden. But if you looked underneath things, it looked like what people do to these cars. And
dude,
like a wire with a connector and then 3 inches of wire and another connector.
Right.
Instead of just connecting the one, like just crap tape to crap. Just like,
do you remember that Sunfire Sage had?
oh yeah, because I remember I got in trouble from Post Michelle because I tried to race him in my Cavalier, and I guess she was on the side of the road when it was me and Mike in my car, and then Austin in his Sunfire, and we went out to Post Michelle's house, the hill before you get down to their house.
Oh.
And we launched going down that road, and he's already like going to pass me. I'm probably topped out, 60. So I just go to get behind him, and we hear somebody yell. The heck, we're out in the country. What the heck was that? The sun's going down. It's getting dark. And so then we go down to the Winnetoon stop sign, and we turn around, and we're coming back. I think Sage just left. But then there's this car just parked facing into a cornfield right across from Post Michelle's. And as soon as we pass by, they blow out of that cornfield and just start coming after us. And me and Mike are like, who is this? So like we end up going through town just blowing every stop sign, just
try to get away.
15 miles an hour. Trying to, stop sign to stop sign, a whole 20 miles an hour, trying to get away. And she's in a Ford Taurus, I think, something like that. I'm trying to go around town, and then I end up getting back out of town and going back down her road to Winnetoon, turn around, and she's still chasing me. I'm like, I'm a loser right here. I make a right, and she goes to make a right as well. And right when I make a right, I just whip it around, or I throw it in reverse and I whip it around. I was like, ha ha. I outmaneuvered. No, she just turned around and caught back up. I couldn't outrun her. And well, I guess when I did that little J turn, something had happened because I finally get back to my house. We were probably like, she was maybe 2 blocks behind us, and I get to my house and we jump out and we just run into your yard. We're hiding behind your house.
Okay.
Back by your laundry room. And
Sweet.
she pulls straight up to my house and she's like, I know who you are. She's like, it's not, everybody knows everybody, so you can't get away. Like, my car is very distinguishable. It's gray on one side, spray painted black on one side.
Right.
And she comes up to my house, and you can just hear her screaming. She's like, "I know who you are," and she's like, "I got your wallet, black boy." And Mike just looks at me, and because he's Filipino, and he's like, "What
Right.
the hell did she just say?" He's like, "I'm about to go over there and punch her," and like, so he gets pissed off. He's about to go fight her.
That
And
doesn't
I was like,
surprise me.
"No, we gotta stay hiding." And she obviously, my dad comes out. She talks to my dad, and we end up walking over. And my dumb ass just tried to deny everything. Why would I race him? And she's like, "I could crack an egg on your engine and it would cook it." I was like, "If I drove around the block, you could crack an egg on my engine and cook it." I was like, "Why would I race with a Cavalier?" I was like, "This thing's got a top speed of 73.5 miles an hour." And well, I guess when we were racing, like, she was on her nightly running in the ditch. I was like, "For one, you were probably running faster than my car.
Probably.
And two, why are you running in the dark
Yeah.
in the country?"
Right. Yeah.
I get what I was doing was not right, but why you're running in a ditch on a country road, like,
At least have something reflective on.
But yeah, my dad's all like, "Give me your keys." So he takes my keys, and then I go inside. I'm like, "I gotta get to work tomorrow." It's like, he hands them back. He's like, "Don't do stupid shit like that again." I'm like, "Deal."
He's just trying to
Yeah, he was just like,
appease her.
Yes, that's exactly what he did. And then what was it? God, something else happened. I don't know. I got a lot of memories in that car. Like, I'm gonna say one story. The night that I went out to a party, it was Angela Largen's party. I don't know. I was probably 17, but
Was it at her house by chance?
no, it was not. It was out in a
was gonna-
cornfield, a little more than 2 miles out of town, so the police couldn't go there. Well, let's just
Definitely
say
early 2000s.
yes, and I will say the police did go there, and there were lots of them. But before that, there were a lot of farmers that were not happy that we were out there. It was out by Austin Eggerling's house.
Oh, I live right next door to him now.
Yeah, so that was
No,
that's a whole thing. And
I was gonna say because there
I
was
took out a
time.
fence. I almost took out a cow.
Oh, jeez. I was gonna say because there was a time where I couldn't remember if you were there or not, but she had a party at her house, and me and somebody went there, and we were getting ready to leave, and my brother had just messaged me and said we were out of milk, and I said, "Well, the store's closed," and I said, "But." I went over to her fridge and I opened it. And I said, "Well, I'm at this chick's house right now, and they got a gallon of milk in their fridge." So I took their milk and left. And so she was like asking me about it like a couple days later. And she's like, "Did you take my milk?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Did you send me over to my house to get cereal or milk one time?
Fuck, I don't know.
Like, I came over and I was like eating some cereal. You're
dude,
like,
is that
"Go get
that was
me
when
a
you were?
bowl."
Yeah, probably did, dude. That's probably when we were camping out in the yard.
Yeah, and we had the TV and the extension cord ran out there so we could play video games in the tent.
Had the old GameCube,
Yeah, Dreamcast. And...
yeah, dude, we were glamping. We didn't need to have no damn internet access back in those days.
Catch bass with rocks and socks.
Yeah.
We took that one into your room and we shut the light off and we tried to toss it back and forth, but the room was too small, so it just kept flying into the wall.
Yeah, I kept him in my drawer for like a day. And then I realized I probably shouldn't just have a bat loose in my room.
Yeah, I remember when you had a hamster too. Then you had 20 hamsters. And then dude, I had a hamster jaw in my foot.
Dude, yeah, okay, first of all, weren't those babies like from you guys?
Yes, they were Heathers.
Yeah, how did I end up with them?
I don't know. You said you'd take them, and then they got loose in your room, and then they ended up dying, and then I stepped on one's jaw.
Yeah, dude, that was fucking... I remember we were, like, going through my closet one day, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess that's where it fucking ended up at.
I remember something I'll never forget is when, we used to change your room all the time. You had those 3 rooms upstairs, so every 3 months we just We'd
Switch
be up
rooms.
at 2 in the middle of the night, just let's move over here. You know, it was always cool because we always arranged it differently, and like it was just the coolest
I
thing.
had those
Because
two
I
tube
couldn't do that in
TVs.
my house. Like I didn't
Right.
have no room to move to. So like it was always fun for me. And then like I remember you had your bench in that room to the left next to the bathroom, and we were hanging out in there because you had your iguana in there. And you went downstairs for something. I don't know. Maybe to eat dinner. And you had a bench, and I think the bar had maybe 25s on it. 25s or 35s. I was like, I ain't no bitch. I was like 105 pounds. I straight lifted that bar and dropped it straight on my neck.
I remember that shit because I had to rush upstairs and get the fucking
Yeah.
bar off of
I was
you.
like, it's on my neck. I'm like, help. I almost died. I remember I had to slide it. I lifted one corner of it. I like slid out from the bench, and then you come upstairs and you're like, "What the hell's that noise?"
Yeah, dude, I was like, what the
I
fuck is
was like,
going on up here,
don't worry
dude?
about that. It just fell off the bench.
That was like that one time I had Alex and Andrew over, and I was upstairs. We were all hanging out in the bedroom, and I was like, all right, I need to go use the bathroom. So I go use the bathroom upstairs, and the wall of that bathroom was sharing a wall
With
with
the
my
bedroom.
room. And then all of a sudden, I hear this like skerfuffle happening and shit. I'm like, I was like, them two really boxing right now? So like, I finish in the bathroom and I go back in the bedroom, and they're both sitting there like nothing happened, but they're like breathing really heavy. And I'm like, what the
Just
fuck
beat the
was
shit out of
that?
each other for like 15 seconds and just
Yeah,
stopped.
dude. And I don't remember what they said happened, but they told me they're like, I don't know, Alex said something, Andrew said something to him or whatever, and they started boxing each other, and then Andrew said, I'm tired, quit, and then they just stopped.
Yeah, that was our thing. Like, we'd always be like hitting the shit out of each other, and then one would just be like, all right, stop. Okay. Like when we went to the park,
Dude.
I don't even know what I said to Andrew. Called him a
Oh
bitch
my
or
god, dude. We were
something, and he just straight picked up a big old 6-foot stick and smacked me in the face with it. My glasses
oh
went
yeah.
flying off, and then we all spent like 2 hours looking for my glasses in the grass.
Yeah, dude. I
This
don't know,
just
like
straight hit me with a whole tree.
yeah, dude, some of the shit we did, like what was that one time me and you were like racing up to my door and you were there a little bit before me, so I like pushed you and your head bounced off the side of the house and you
Yeah,
just
we had just
fucking
gotten out of
folded to
the
the fucking ground.
Intrepid, or no, maybe it was the Aurora. And I was like, last one to the door's a bitch. And I already had like a 3-foot head start on you. Like, ain't no way I'm losing this. I didn't
You
think
got
you
up
would
to the door and
actually
I just
chase
went
me, and then I was a foot away from the door. Boom! I just smoked the wall.
I didn't think it'd fucking knock you out, dude. You just fucking crumpled. Like, oh shit, I killed him.
Yeah, those were the good days. I tell
Oh
you what,
fuck,
though,
dude.
a lot of that taking the shit was something that made me a lot stronger, because I feel like a lot of the things I did after that didn't really cause me pain. I feel like if I would have grown
Oh,
up without, you know,
just me abusing you the whole
yeah,
time?
just a rough friendship.
Like, what was it? My old Ford F-150, that old REA truck, like going over Berry Bridge, and then all of a
Oh,
sudden
my
I'd smash the
Atlanta.
brakes, and
Yeah,
your
I
head
went
would,
into the dash.
and you crumpled and hit the fucking
I was
floor.
balled up on the floorboard. Doesn't help that I was like 5'4", 103 pounds.
I should find a way to get like our football photos uploaded so I can see people
Yeah.
how tall you were standing next
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, because I
Oh
honestly
man,
didn't grow until probably the end of my junior year, senior. I mean, I'm still
yeah,
only
dude.
5'8", but I
I'm
mean,
5'8".
yeah, like,
I mean, I wasn't. I'm not tall by any means. You're
yeah,
just
but I mean, I was small for a really long time, and that football was also a big thing for that, because like I didn't realize how I was small, but I also wasn't in shape. Like I had a lot of baby fat. Like when I was in 7th, 8th, ninth grade, because I look at my pictures back then, and I'm just like, there's a huge change,
oh
like
yeah, you can
in my,
tell even
yeah,
in your face and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
football and conditioning and the gym 2 times a day was definitely a huge thing. And that also made it a lot easier when I went into the army, because it wasn't, you know, it made things a lot easier. It definitely was not easy, but I was just like,
You
I remember when I went into the army and they're like, all right, we're going to do our PT test. You know, I had done the MEPS one, which is half of a PT test. But when we got to AIT or our actual units in basic, and they're like, all right, we're going to do our PT test, 2 minutes push ups, 2 minutes sit ups. I was like, that's easy and knock that out all day. And like, then we do a 2 mile run. I was like, I don't even know if I can run that far. Like, who the
right?
hell runs that far? I'm like, for football, like we ran a lot, but like it was never for this. I never did cross country or track or anything like that. And all the sports I did, it was just, you know, burst running. And like it may have been long distance, but not that long. Not consistently at least. So I was like, I don't even know if I can run that far. And I ended up being the second fastest one in my platoon. I ran just was it 13 minutes flat or 13:03, something like that. And 13 minutes for my age group was 100%. So I either got 100% on that or like a 97 or something like that. Uh, but I was like, I remember, you know, at that time I also smoked. And I remember I got to my first duty station. Our first sergeant saw like he brought all the new soldiers in, and he's like, "All right, who in here is good at physical training, you know, the PT?" And me and a couple of my buddies raise our hands. He's like, "All right, who here maxes their run?" Me and a couple of my buddies raise our hands. He's like, "All right." He's like, "Here's where you see a lot." He asked everybody to hold their hands up, or you know, anybody that comes close to maxing their run, have your hands up. And then he's like, "Who here smokes?" And it was funny because like everybody that had smoked were the ones that still maxed their PT test for their run, and everybody that didn't, he's like, he had a whole spiel about, you know,
Oh,
telling people
yeah.
to not smoke, but then he's like, you know, you guys would run faster if you didn't.
Yeah, probably. I
Yeah.
know there's plenty of times during football conditioning I wished I didn't fucking
Yeah.
smoke. God,
And
dude, I don't know why I did that.
yeah. And then I remember when I went to Arizona, when I was stationed there, I was like, I had always either maxed my run or came really close to maxing my run. I think the fastest I ever ran was 12:40 something, and the slowest I ever ran was like a 13:46. And I remember my fastest run was actually Arizona, but I was terrified when I went there because I was like, I'm very competitive when it comes to physical activity. And
Hmm.
like I didn't realize that until I was in, and like somebody would come in and think that they were good at physical activity. I'm like, no, you gotta learn your place. And like but that way is when I found good rivals, somebody that actually pushed me, because when you just have a group of lazy people,
Right.
like there's no reason to push yourself. So when you have those people that also like to push themselves, that's when it gets fun.
Hmm.
And so when you're doing like 6120s or uphill runs, like that's when it becomes fun, is actually having somebody there to challenge you. And so when I went to Arizona, I was like, I'm terrified because the elevation is like 4,000 feet, maybe 5,000. I was just like, I don't know if I'm gonna. That was the fastest I ever ran. But by golly, when I was done with that run, I literally thought I was going to die. Like
Yeah.
it felt like my insides were on fire just because the elevation. I don't know how I ran my fastest time, because when I was done, I wanted. It literally felt like my body was on fire. I was like, "This is the worst."
Well, man, I better.
Yeah, it's been a
Right.
it's been a long
Yeah, it's
night.
been a while.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. So we're
So,
gonna end it there. We're gonna try and do this again next week. Hopefully, I can figure out all my stuff so we don't have the same issues that I had when I first started this stream. But we're gonna be going over different topics, automotive related. But if you guys want to talk about anything specific or want our input on anything, please feel free to drop a comment down below, and we'd be happy to do our best on answering anything that you guys got or discuss whatever you guys want to discuss. Other than that, if you got anything, Sean.
no, I don't think so.
Alrighty, guys. Have a good night, and we'll see you guys next week.
Night, y'all.
Okay, bye.
All right. Catch you later, buddy.
All right. Later.
Later.